be a real wonderful mess of a race is the best way I can describe it. Zach, you've had an opportunity to race here a couple of times in the CIL, and I'm sure countless times beyond that. What can folks expect tonight from Talladega?
I would say organized chaos, but that might be a bit too much of an exaggeration in favor of the organization part of the phrase. It's gonna be chaos. There's gonna be guys beating and banging all night, 3-4 wide even. It's gonna be lots of drama, lots of guys up front that we wouldn't normally see. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a crazy race.
Yeah, one thing I think that you mentioned that I think is worth emphasizing is the fact that we could see a whole number of people up front here tonight. I mean, this is the kind of race where everyone's all grouped together. You have 30 cars all running within a second of the lead. And all it takes is, one line to get some momentum or someone to make a mistake and fall off the wrong way. And you can see cars that are typically a 20th, 25th place car running up in the top 5. And not only is that exciting to see some new faces up in the top group, but you also have that moment of like, all right, if you have to work with somebody to get that, that draft help late in the race, you may not be able to find those people you typically run next to because the field could be all sorts of jumbled up. And I think because of it, you're going to see a lot of really interesting partnerships. I know there's been a lot of discussion ahead of time here tonight about drivers of who are they going to work with? Who's your drafting buddies out there? Who are you going to try and look for in that pack of cars to get you and that other person up to the front of the field? We know obviously if you run for the same university, pretty high chances you'll be running to try and get both yourselves up front. But for some of our single car teams, it becomes a little trickier. You start trying to reach out across campuses and be like, hey, we're on opposite sides of the country or in different countries in some cases, but maybe it's time we put aside some differences and try to work together for a while, one night only.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of pack racing in iRacing and in CIL especially, you can't be too picky about who you're going to be drafting with. Yeah, you want to be drafting with teammates because those are the guys you practice with. Those are the guys you have a rapport with. But being Talladega and the cars being so close together, if a wreck happens, your teammates can get taken out pretty quick. So you have to, let's say, stay on your opponent's good side through the race and try and keep some friends. For the end of the race, so you can get some help, because if you make some guys mad, they're going to be a lot less likely to help you, and you're going to have a really hard time holding yourself up front.
Yeah, and it's one of the few times where cooperation will really lead you somewhere here in racing, as opposed to every man for themselves out there, every person for themselves, I should say. But before we get too far along into talking about Talladega tonight, let's take a quick look back at Kansas last week. Let's take a look at the first race of the playoffs here, a race that ended in probably the most dramatic fashion we've had all season, with Tim Moore picking up the victory on the last corner of the last lap. So yeah, let's take a look there and see what happened in last week's race.
The pace car has made the hard left turn onto pit road. Our pole sitter, Zach DeWale, approaches the Geico restart zone. He hits the gas, and we are playoff racing at Kansas. So here, this is coming off the restart. We're 3 wide going into turn 1. And you can see the 3 of Drew Jawa actually made contact with the 15 of Sidor hard into the wall.
Collected into that. And a number of cars involved. I see the 65 of Klingensmith. Spencer Brown may be involved in there as well. I mean, obviously, Sidor got turned around like a Beyblade. That car was really spinning. But this is the onboard here with the 02 of Jonathan Egge from Robert Morris. This happens directly in front of him.
Oh, goodness.
Jeez, heavy contact there for Sidor into that outside wall. He goes up above Godinez and then tries just splitting the traffic there. He actually just gets around his team.
Are we looking at maybe some troubles for that 22 machine coming down pit road? It's Austin DeLong. He's coming down pit road, and yep, that car just loops on him. Actually slides back on the track and collects Nick Stockner. Hard hit for that 124 machine. This is coming to the white flag. You can see the 4 wide. Now, this incident started with Zach Whale, Ahmed Alif, and Drew Jawa making contact, and Alif spinning up into the 37 car, and it was just everybody involved in that crash behind them. A couple of Ball State cars, Athena Leclerc involved. I think that's the 43 of Sky Shrek, the 34 of Duncan O'Connor also involved in that crash.
Some heavy contact
implications there too.
Cars. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those cars with some heavy contact.
It's Drew Williams out in front of Matt O'Brien. Who's going to lock themselves into the championship four? They're side by side into the corner. Both of them sideways. Matt O'Brien's up into the wall. Williams is slow. Here comes Tim Moore with a run. They're side by side to the line. It's going to be Tim Moore.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it from there, especially that last clip. I mean, Tim Moore was nowhere in the picture, but then was able to walk away with the win with the late contact between Matt O'Brien and Drew Williams. But, Zach, you were actually in that race. What did you see from ground level?
Well, honestly, I didn't see a whole lot. I had the good fortune, I guess, of being able to stay out front for a lot of it, so I didn't get to see a lot of the drama, sort of, I'll say, behind until those late race cautions. But yeah, it got very chaotic at the end. Guys were making a lot of really big moves, especially some playoff guys, making some strategy calls and just some racecraft decisions that were pretty aggressive and out there, really trying to get their track position up and try and get a sneaky win, lock themselves into the championship four. But really, really hard racing from everyone, even the non-playoff guys as well.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, especially with the playoff guys, I mean, some of those decisions paid off in a big way, and some of them backfired pretty badly. But ultimately, it was Tim Moore who walked away with the win and the automatic lock-in to Homestead in a couple of weeks' time here. Let's take a quick look at our playoff points as they run here after one playoff race. Only Talladega and Michigan remain. As you can see there, Timothy Moore locked in with his victory last week at Kansas. He'll be one of the four from Manhattanville College. Matthew Morton in good shape right now in second. Drew Williams just missed out on the win last week, but he's still holding firm in third. And then it becomes a real battle for that last playoff spot, Zach.
Absolutely. Lots of guys very, very tight on points there. It can really go anyone's way at this point. You know, Clampett's always going to be a threat, being a former pro, and then obviously the rest of these guys here, incredibly good drivers. Tim Robb right on the cusp of it. Clint, Jake, Drew Jua, Duncan, all very, very fast guys who all have a very real chance at jumping into the championship four.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how close it is. I mean, from Tim Robb back to Drew Jewell back in eighth, I mean, it's only a 7-point gap, and that's separating 5 different drivers who are all fighting for one spot. So it's going to get real close. Duncan O'Connor, actually one of those guys who went on a bit of an alternate strategy. He tried staying out on old tires late in that race. It ultimately backfired, and he fell back through the field a little bit. But, you know, when you find yourselves behind the 8-ball a little bit, you got to take a couple of those chances, try and make something happen. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the Nova Scotia Community College driver there, but still very much in the hunt here with a couple of real wild card races to go, especially this week with Talladega. But that is going to give us an opportunity now to talk to one of our playoff drivers. He is the driver from American University, currently in on the final playoff spot. It is going to be Tim Robb from American University. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So obviously, you know, through Kansas here, you are right on that cut line to advance the Homestead. What is the strategy coming into a race as chaotic as Talladega?
Yeah, it is going to be a really tricky race. I feel like Talladega is kind of like an all or nothing race. And as far as the playoff drivers go, I don't really feel like any of us are in an all or nothing position yet. So you don't, in my opinion, you don't want to go crazy and get yourself into trouble. But I think for me, the strategy tonight is just to make sure I'm around the playoff drivers. So whatever happens, for better or for worse, we're going to all be stuck in the same mess together. And the goal would be just to come out even at the end of the day. That'd be a good day for me at Talladega.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta have a clean result here. It's gonna be tricky to have a clean race with all the chaos and close racing we'll see tonight. My question for you: have you been talking to any of the other playoff drivers about any kind of teamwork you might be having with them, or has it been pretty quiet between you guys at all?
I haven't had too much communications with the other playoff drivers. The only driver I've talked to this week was Jake Cummings, but I don't know if there'll be any teamwork there. I think a lot of the teamwork you'll see tonight will be either based upon school affiliation, or I know there's a lot of third-party alliances going on. I think you'll see a lot of that kind of taking shape. So a lot of playoff guys working with non-playoff guys, I think, is what you'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different, especially if someone wrecks out early. I mean, it can really throw a wrench into who you're working with. Sometimes you just kind of find whoever you're working with at the end of the race. I have a quick hypothetical for you here. Classic question for Talladega. Last lap, do you want to be the guy leading the race or the guy right behind the guy leading the race?
That is tricky. I'd say in the next gen car, you want to be the guy leading the race because it's a lot easier to make the block rather than to get around somebody in this car. It's so much harder to pass in the next gen car on super speedways.
What do you think makes it that much harder to pass with this car compared to say the Xfinity car or even the trucks? What do you think makes the pack racing so different with these cars?
I think the number one thing that makes it difficult is the side draft in these cars is just so strong. So when you get two lines side by side throughout the whole field, everyone is just, whether you're trying to or not, there's a side draft effect, and it just, no line can go anywhere, and you can't really get a third line going. So everyone is kind of just stuck where they are. It just makes it hard to move throughout a field compared to what you used to be able to do and compared to what you can do in other cars.
Certainly.
Sure. Well, Tim, thanks for jumping on the Ignition Zone here for a couple minutes. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with everybody before you strap in for what should be an adventure of a race here tonight?
I just hope everyone watching enjoys it. It's guaranteed to be a crazy race.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that one. Well, thanks for joining the show, Tim. Good luck to you tonight, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to see you back in the booth here at the end of the evening.
Thank you. See you guys soon.
See ya. So that was Tim Robb of American University, someone who I would say is coming into this race with not necessarily a cautious optimism, but I think he very kind of clearly put out the fact is like, yeah, anything can happen here. The goal is just to be in the mix at the end of the night.
I think that's a really good mindset to have coming into a race at Talladega, because you really have no idea. You can't really plan too much how your race is going to go. At some other tracks, like say at Kansas last week or even at Michigan coming up next week, you kind of know whereabouts you're going to qualify from how you've performed at other races in the past. Talladega, it's going to be so mixed up. Everyone's in equal machinery. You could start on pole, you could start 27th. You can't plan too much around that. So you have to come in with an open mind. You can't expect to go out and lead every lap here.
Yeah, and that really makes it so tricky. You become so much more reliant on what other people are doing here, I feel like, than just about any other track on the circuit, which I think can get under the skin of a lot of drivers, because a lot of the fun of racing is if you know you can drive the track better than your opponents, you're going to move up through the field, and you can't necessarily do that here. But as someone who has won a CIL Talladega race, Zach, what approach, what headspace do you have to take into a race like this to even make it to a spot at the end of the race where you're in position to win it?
You really can't come in and think I'm going to win. You have to just first try to finish first. First you must finish. You just have to try and keep yourself out of trouble, and then really in that last 20 laps is when you just have to try and really start making your moves. Then you can't play all your cards before the game's over. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean,
We'll
that makes a lot of sense. I like the fact of, to your point, you got to be able to finish the race first before you have a chance of winning it. But
Absolutely.
That's about all the time we've got here on the Ignition Zone, folks. So we're going to take a brief intermission, and when we come back in just a couple of minutes, we'll be bringing you the action from tonight's Alabama 199 from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, the second race of the College Cup Series playoffs for the CIL. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
As the countdown begins, 10 drivers suit up for a fierce battle here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway in their quest for a championship. But there will be so many more gunning for the win here tonight at the high banks of Talladega for the Alabama 199, the second race of the College Cup Series playoffs here tonight in the Collegiate iRacing League. Welcome in, everybody. My name's Alex Gagnon. Alongside me tonight, Zach DeWale. And this one should promise to be an absolute classic, if for no other reason than it's stock car racing at Talladega. It's two things that just go together like an absolute nightmare in the best way possible.
Absolutely. It's gonna be chaos. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to be able to watch one of these things. It's been a little while since I've got to watch a CIL race at a pack racing track. I'm pumped.
Yeah, we should have an absolute classic coming your way this evening, folks. Let's take a look here at what Talladega Superspeedway looks like from above. Nothing can really appreciate how large this track is. 2.66 miles, the biggest oval on the College Cup Series circuit. And I mean, you can see from the Google Earth view, I mean, you can just fit so many different things into this place. It spans just an absolute just field after field's worth of land, but it's big and it is fast. Those are the two big takeaways. It made its debut here in season 5 of the CIL, ran in season 6 and 7, took a little hiatus during the summer for season 8, and is back for its 4th time here tonight. We've had 3 different winners here, pretty unsurprisingly, because by God, does Talladega have the opportunity to really shake up this field, Zach?
Absolutely. Even more so than Daytona, I feel like. I don't know what it is about Talladega. It's just so much more chaotic, it feels like. I don't know what it is. It's that extra 0.16 miles in track distance. It really shakes up the field, provides a lot of really good, entertaining racing. And it's going to be very, very wild.
That it is. But let's take a look this evening real quick at our the cars of choice here. They will be battling on one of these 3 machines, either the NASCAR Toyota Camry, the Chevy Camaro, or the Ford Mustang. We've got all 3 throughout the field. But that being said, the majority of the field does appear to be running the iRacing NASCAR Chevy Camaros this evening. But all 3 are up there, and all 3 of them will handle the draft ever so slightly differently. If they're coded the way they are in real life. You know, some of them have slightly more flat bumpers to push on. Some of them have slightly better angles for the air. But ultimately in iRacing, that all boils down to basically being a stock car. So shouldn't really see any differences there this evening with how they're racing. Probably
not, no. A lot of the times in these races in iRacing, the 3 manufacturers will run mostly the same. But if it is anything like real life, the Fords are very easy to push in real life and to make lots of time that way. They can lock bumpers very easily. The Toyotas, not quite as much. A lot better than the Chevy. If it's anything like real life, the Chevy will has that very pointed front end, and that can cause some problems if you're pushing really aggressively.
Which I am sure we will see as this race nears its conclusion. But let's see if we can jump on board here and watch what a qualifying lap looks like at Talladega. Or not yet, actually. We will not be doing that just yet. So we will actually hold up on that in just 1 second, but we will be getting there. Cars are still actively on track qualifying, which is why we can't tune in to see what those look like yet, because they're not done completing it yet. But yeah, this race has an opportunity to really make or break someone's season, especially if you're one of these playoff drivers. I mean, this is an opportunity to lock yourself in for Homestead and not have to worry about Michigan. Or it could wreck you early, and then it could put you in a massive hole going to Michigan in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. That's why it's very important for the playoff drivers this week to just race as smart as they possibly can. They can't afford to take unnecessary risks today, which is going to make their Talladega race maybe a little less exciting from their point of view. But it's what they need to do if they want to be serious about this and really push for that championship. You don't want to have to go into Michigan in a hole.
No, you really don't. But to that same point, I mean, there's so many different drivers who could win here today because of how tight the racing is. But let's now take a look here at what a qualifying lap looks like at Talladega now that qualifying has concluded. We're going to be jumping on board, I believe, with the number 5 machine of Tim Robb from American University.
Let's see it. All right. So Tim, of course, driving the number 5 Chevrolet. Very important here to hold lots of momentum for your qualifying laps. Want to run right down at the bottom around the whole track. It's very important to be extremely smooth on the wheel here. You're full throttle all the way around the track.
Yeah, obviously a lot of this is just a matter of hugging that yellow line and then getting a decent run down the backstretch, coming up just a little bit, and then you'll be diving back down onto that yellow line, going back into turn 3 and 4. So as you can see, yeah, he jumps back down toward that yellow line, really hugs it, because this car with no draft will limit out before it reaches its top gear. So basically, you just put the hammer down, you try and make the track as short as possible, and you go from there. And you can see the start-finish line is not in the middle of the tri-oval like most places. It's about 1,000 yards farther down the track, or 1,000 feet farther down the track, sorry, which doesn't sound like it'd make a huge difference, but we've seen so many races decided in that last little strip of the front stretch.
Absolutely. Everything can change there. You can go from 10th to 1st, or you can go from 1st to 10th. In that same little bit of track, it creates just that much more distance that these guys have to travel to try and grab that win. So it can cause a lot of drama there.
Alrighty, let's take a look at tonight's starting grid for this Alabama 199. It's the 10th race of the CIL season. I checked that, 11th race of the season. It'll be Jake Cummings from Wingate University, lockstep to the 1,000th of a second with Robbie Rabel Jr. on the front row, Wingate and St. Clair College, row 1. Row 2, it's going to be the University of Oklahoma's Sky Shrek, along with Arizona State's Garrett Vighton. In row 3, it's R. Muhammad Alif of Ball State University and Edward Sanchez of Baruch College, who put up a podium finish at Daytona, looking to replicate that Superspeedway success here tonight. Tim Robb, who we were on board with earlier, will roll off 7th for American University, alongside Matthew Morton of Ohio State. And in row 5, it'll be Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology, alongside Tim Moore of Manhattanville College.
Starting in 11th is Michael Sider from Penn State College as well, alongside Lucas Moody from Ball State University. Followed by Jacob Weist from UNC Charlotte and Colin Culpa from Indiana University. Row 8 will be Brandon Schullenberger from Wingate University alongside Jason Wallet from Drexel University. Row 9 is Nathan Inman from Clemson and Kelton Quick from Ball State University. Row 10 is Oscar Enriquez from George Mason University alongside Charles Wimbley from Guilford College.
That brings us back to the 21st starting position with our playoff driver, Matt O'Brien from Michigan Tech, alongside Thomas Toomey from the University of Virginia. Row 12, it'll be Zach Tallman from the Penn College of Technology, alongside ETSU's Matthew Burton. Row 13, it'll be Andrew Stagey, alongside Ryan Whitlock, Ball State, and the University of Alabama at Huntsville, respectively. Drew Williams from Clemson University will roll off in the 27th position tonight, alongside Dylan Godinez of the Penn College of Technology. And row 15 will be Clint Halterman from UNC Charlotte, alongside Alex Hallinar of Binghamton.
Row 16 will see St. Clair's Athena Leclerc and Alex Finnerty of UNC Charlotte. Row 17 is Major Monsevias from Texas A&M, alongside Daniel Hunter from St. Clair College. Row 18 is Benjamin Neller from Ball State University, alongside defending champion Jared Kaler from UNC Charlotte. Row 19 sees Nicholas Stockner, also from Clemson, and Timothy Wilms from Drexel University. Row 20 is Zarin Bartholomew, from St. Clair College, and Nicholas Buttalimit from St. John's University.
And rounding out the rest of our field tonight, Edwin Onofre from North Texas in 41st, Andrew Burrell from Clemson in 42nd. 43rd will be Tristan Leclerc, and if there is a 44th car, I'm not sure, I believe it's cut off at 43, it would be Tyler Klingensmith from Robert Morris University. But that is going to be our starting grid this evening. A full 43 cars ready to rumble here at Talladega in just a minute. It should be quite the field. And as we saw through that starting grid, I mean, there's a lot of cars that we're seeing as a bit of a surprise up front who put together a good qualifying effort. Some cars we were not expecting to see so far back. But most notably, I mean, those times were so close. I mean, the difference between first and 10th was like 0.005 of a second.
Yeah, the gaps are just crazy tight. That's just the lovely product of iRacing, Superspeedways, these guys being so close together. It lets these qualifying times be so close together. I think a 10th separates the entire field, which is, you don't see that anywhere but Talladega and Daytona. So it should make for a very exciting race.
It really will. I mean, we even have a couple of drivers who might put themselves in good position early here. Under normal circumstances, I would be saying that Jake Cummings has set himself up beautifully here with a pole position, looking to win his way into the championship 4. But at a track like Talladega, it really doesn't hold